cup lovers. Thank you for tuning in to What's in Your Cup. We're filming live from the campus of A&M University Fine Arts Gallery at Foster Tanner Building. I'm your co-host, Willie Williams, along with Miss Trotter, Miss Portia, and a special guest, special guest host.
Guest host, get it right.
Guest host.
Get it right.
Mr. Andrew Gillum.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Now, first of all, before we get started, congratulations, Mr. Gillum, on being elected, newly elected mayor of the city of Tallahassee.
That's right. Yeah. Well, I nearly changed barbershops because I went in the week after the election. My barber said, "I got you. You know that, right?" And I said, "The election's over." But it's all good. November 21st. I'm gonna keep him a little longer. I realize it's not a general election, but he's still got me.
Okay, good.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Now, I actually did some research into all the accomplishments that you've had over the years, and one of the things we struggled with was, how do we address you? I mean, I started with commissioner, and then I thought about mayor, and you're like a superhero. I even thought Batman. So, how do you want us to address you? Please tell us.
Yeah.
Please tell us.
I'm standing and upright today.
Okay.
And I don't have any throw up on my suit.
Good. That's awesome. Not daddy.
Right?
Right?
Well, these are accomplishments.
Right.
You understand,
Right. Exactly.
with a new family, you start to change your goals for the day.
Right.
So the first thing is to get up, pray.
Right.
Put on my suit, maybe feed the kids before I head out, and pray that they didn't spit up on me before I left. So,
Right.
but I tell you, the one honor I take. The title I take great pride in is being a husband and a father right now.
Yeah,
So,
there you go. Yeah,
that's
awesome.
it.
So, but we can't call you dear, and we can't call you daddy. So
No,
Andrew's
we
fine.
You come here. Yeah, we'll keep it plain.
There you go.
So Andrew it is. Andrew it is. Well, we have a great show for you today, cup lovers. Today we'll be talking about generational gaps.
Yeah, and just to clarify that for our audience, when we talk about generational gap, we're talking about the differences between the younger generation and the older generation with respect to culture, work ethic, and values, right?
And so we have Mr. Gillum here, who's going to open up this discussion about reconnecting our community.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about culture, it takes me back to TV shows.
Yeah.
TV shows is the first thing that comes to mind, and mine in particular was Different World.
Yeah.
Now, Different World had a major impact on me. It actually was my first experience into college from a black male perspective.
Right.
So that was one thing that definitely touched me, was Different World.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I love that show, but okay, so I'm an 80s baby, right? And I'm also a musician, so for me, music was a thing, and I love Michael Jackson. You know, this is a throwback. This is a shout out to Michael Jackson. I would get up and dance for y'all, but yeah, I got here.
Spirit a little bit.
Yeah, I'm a spirit. Yeah. So I mean, but I love Michael Jackson because his music was about world culture. It was about just creative expression and just about having some good fun.
Yeah.
I mean, how many of y'all out there who doesn't love Michael Jackson? Okay, good.
If you love him, make some noise.
Yeah. I was gonna say y'all have to leave. You didn't like. Right?
The Different World was pretty extraordinary. In fact, I thought growing up the whole time that I was going to Hillman College.
Right.
Yeah, when people say where you're going to, and folks would throw out Morehouse, FAMU. Honestly, it was Hillman. Absolutely. Whitney Gilbert was going to be my wife. Don't tell her. Yeah.
For me, it was fashion, and I know that fashion is an art form in its own self, and it recycles itself. But the 70s.
See, she got a nod to the 70s.
The 70s with the afros and the bell bottoms and the big earrings. Look, I'm trying to give it back to y'all. I'm trying to give it back to y'all a little bit. But for me, it signified power, beauty, and sophistication. So I want to know what's another part of our generation that shaped you.
Yeah, well, I'll say, speaking of the 70s, a lot of Norman Lear shows from moving on up. mean, those are classics. I mean, I enjoy those immeasurably.
You know,
I love the Cosby Show, but that wasn't my neighborhood. Definitely wasn't my parents.
Right. Nor your sisters or your brothers.
Exactly.
Right, gotcha.
So it's a nice escape.
You know, the difference I think between the shows of today and the shows of that we grew up on, it's like it's almost like there's no central message at the end of it, you know, and that whole theme about family and community is gone out of it as well. You know, we have this I say garden. It's not really a garden, but it's a whole field of reality TV that's just plagued our airways. And I mean, how is that going to affect our generation coming up? You know, what is that going to say to them about how they should be living their lives?
Yeah, well, I mean, you got to put these reality shows in their respective
right, exactly.
to it, and that's why you got to have parents and others who talk to you about what's real and what isn't. Some of the stuff that you see kids say on reality TV shows of their parents, I could never have gotten away with. I mean,
we would have never lived.
I know that you would say we did.
That's true, and that's particularly timely as we talk about, you know, you all know what's going on in athletics right now in sports.
Yes, right.
And this whole conversation about disciplining of black families.
Oh, gosh.
And, you know, is it okay to get whippings? I got whippings, but you know, my skin didn't get torn and nobody was stuffing my mouth.
I had to go pick my switch. And,
Yeah, I did. I was not that smart though. I got
You got the thickest one?
no. I got the skinny one. That was a bad idea.
That's definitely a depiction though, how things have changed over the times,
Right.
and being able to look back and to see how each show had a message within it, and at the end of that show you had some values that you actually gathered from that show. But nowadays, like Portia said, a lot of things is missing from the TV shows, and you can see it in our youth. The things that are missing from them, the values that's not trickling down like it used to.
Right.
So,
And it was one point when we were growing up, it's the saying that said, you know, what stays in our home stays in our home. What happens in our home stays in our home.
Right.
Nowadays, it's like an exploitation of dysfunction, but it's no cure for it. It's nothing happening to show the cure. Even in reality TV, we will see the dysfunction, but at the end result, it's still
More dysfunction.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's just based on the ratings, but it's no healing method of how do we overcome this dysfunction and these differences in our household.
That's right. Well, I'll tell you, that's one of the reasons why, and don't judge me, but I kind of value what Oprah's done on the OWN network.
Oh, that's my.
With, I mean, those life classes. Those life classes will take you to church.
And they do on Sunday morning.
Absolutely. And it replays and so on and so forth. But I get so much value from that, and to the extent that we can support networks like that are perpetuating positive messages and good influences, and as you said, bringing about real resolution from the conflict, that's where we ought to put our resources, our time, our money, our talent, because if we don't show up on the rating system on that side, shows like that get canceled. And what do we have left? Real Housewives of Atlanta.
And on that note, we're going to take a small break and hear from our sponsors. We'll be right back.
Welcome home. Back to friends, family, and loved ones. You've done your duty for your country. Now, it's time to do your duty for yourself. Chart a new course and achieve honor for you and your family. Start with a top-notch education that will take you to new terrains. Soldier on at Florida A&M University.
Welcome back, cup lovers. We've been talking about culture and generational gap, and within that generational gap, we've been talking about music, television, and fashion.
Right.
So we want to know, with all of that being said, there's another lack that we see between the generations, which is work ethic.
Right. I think in previous generations, one of the things that we've seen is people working on jobs longer and more diligently, and they retire from those jobs, versus this new age or this new generation of go-getters where you see, and I say the term serial entrepreneur because, you know, we're always looking to find that next hustle or that next big thing, you know, and so we're not putting all of our eggs in one basket. you know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's everybody has a hustle and everybody has a grind. I got one. I got one too.
Yeah. Well, you know, and part of it is it not being built out of the economy that a lot of these folks are coming out into. So
Right.
you're graduating from college, you're doing everything you're supposed to do, and you get out and there still aren't the jobs available in the area you want to major in. And so these folks, what I can say that I desperately appreciate about this generation of young people is they're creating what doesn't exist.
Oh, good.
You know, they're looking for opportunities to plug in where there are holes. And I think, you know, the kind of entrepreneurs and the barons of this generation, I think are a good thing.
And I think what's plaguing our community the most is that a lot of youth nowadays have this entitlement thing going on where they feel like everything is entitled to them. And when you think about that, you say to yourself, what can I do to make changes within this community? What can we do to encourage hard work ethics within our youth?
Yeah. Well, one, they have to see it exhibited, right?
Right. That's true.
One thing that I can say about my experience growing up is watching my mother and father who had 7 kids. You absolutely got a living, breathing example of what it meant to work hard and to demonstrate excellence in your work. And it was those models, and I think that's true for so many of us.
Right.
It was those models that said, man, I can't sit back on my lawn, I can't play video games all day. My mother would wake up 8 o'clock on Saturday, and if we weren't up by 8:30, were you gonna sleep all day?
Listen, I am not with your mom. Listen, if I'm in the house and I'm up at 8, I'm looking at anybody else, anybody crazy who's not up at 8. I'm like, why are you still sleeping? Exactly.
Yeah.
But even going back to that serial entrepreneurship, I just want to piggyback on what you were saying about the economy has created that spirit in one aspect. But what happens, in my point of view, in my opinion, is that we're not teaching them how to be an entrepreneur, because the whole idea is great, but to the sustainability of it is diminishing.
Because the entrepreneurship is great, you know, people are, you know, being creative and having ideas and creating jobs for themselves, but being able to recycle that wealth over and over in the community and create jobs that will, you know, and right, exactly. I mean, how do we tackle that? Because I feel like that's an issue.
Yeah, well, I mean, fortunately, we have models in our community of people who have done it and have done it well and have done it successfully, are establishing good businesses and are doing good business.
Right.
Unfortunately, there's so many of them are very busy keeping the doors of those businesses open. They don't have the time to reach back and pay mentorship credit to those who are coming up after. And so you got a lot of people who are innovating, creating, but not many sustaining. Right. And I think that's what this conversation is pointing to, is we need more people who are sustainers of their work.
Within mentor positions. And I think a big thing that comes with that is teaching our youth from the start not to try to turn 15 minutes of fame into a lifetime achievement.
Right. Hashtag that. 15 minutes of fame.
Maybe I should repeat that again. Don't take 15 minutes of fame and try to turn it into a lifetime achievement. What's in your cup? But there's definitely some strides that can be made in the community in reference to bringing youth into the mentorship, because that's one of the things that's lacking when you talk about generational gaps. There's a gap in the information and the knowledge being transferred to the youth. So somehow we have to find out how to mend that gap and how to get the information going back again.
So it's continually recycling.
Yeah, and I think to remind folks that you know, my mother would coming up was call me a Burger King baby, my way, right away, right?
Microwave.
And if that were true for me then, I think it's on steroids today. If success isn't happening immediately, folks feel like they put in a work, even though it was a day, and the residual isn't coming, it's like, okay, on to the next.
I blame technology.
Well, technology has accelerated a lot for us, right? I mean, you know it in your workplace. If you don't respond to that email immediately, it's like, have you died? The workplace demands that kind of rapid response. And I tell my staff, just because I'm up emailing you at 5, I don't want a response at 5.
Right.
Now, come on.
I don't. I've been in a
Who is it, hon? It's the baby. No.
Right. If the babies are up, I'm up, which means my mind is working.
So that's like kind of saying working smart and not harder. So time won't catch up with you. So now you're spreading your time wisely. You're doing things diligently to create an avenue that's going to work for you at the end of the day.
Right.
So.
Yeah, it's customizing it.
I'm learning some things.
learning.
Yeah.
So when can
Taking
we
us back to school,
expect
at school.
the Andrew Gillum workshop classes for youth?
Well,
That's what it sounds like. We need some work ethic workshop classes for the youth.
actually, I think we need a Willie school.
Well,
Come in
actually,
and support.
he is, what are you, the regional director of DYG?
That's right.
Distinguished
Right,
Youth
yes,
General-
national director
Do we need to
of
remind
Distinguished
you
Young
and
Gentlemen.
remind everybody else?
Yeah,
That-
Yes, let me-
show.
I'm the national director of Distinguished Young Gentlemen of America.
This guy. This guy.
Hashtag.
Yeah. But we can't trivialize the work that
No,
is
definitely
being done
not.
there. I mean,
Right.
that is the kind of work that we've got to see happening, not just with those who are on the college track, but our young people who don't see college as an option, who frankly need a trade.
Right.
They may need to get through middle and high school and then
Right.
go off and do a job. And I think sometimes we don't put a premium on that student. That so much of the premium is on the gold standard.
Yes.
And maybe there's a lot that happens in between.
Right.
Work that my parents and your parents did that made a way, and it was not just good enough. People turned it into their own hustle, their own businesses.
Right.
But it didn't come by way of going through college and getting a degree. It came by hard work, entrepreneurship, putting their shoulders into it, and sticking in there long enough to see a result.
And that's the thing. That's like that sticking to it. The sticking to itness.
That's a good word.
Yes.
Hashtag.
Hashtag that.
Never heard of it. Never heard of it.
You're part of that generation, man.
Not part of that generation.
Yeah.
Well, I think once we get things going in a circular motion, and speaking of youth organizations and groups in different cities and different states, once the businesses actually start putting into the youth, and the youth can see that, and then they start putting into the businesses, it's almost like a full circle. You're
Yeah.
kind of leaning toward closing that gap.
Well, I tell you, on the business side, one of the biggest things that gives me heartache is, particularly for our young people who fall into trouble. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, increasingly, lots of them are making bad choices that end them up in trouble. But just as you can't be tried twice for the same crime, it seems you can be punished perpetually when you make a mistake, right?
Oh,
It ends up
Lord.
on your records, so on and so forth.
Yes.
We need more businesses that are more understanding to the fact that,
I
but
was
for the
young.
grace of God, there go
Right,
I, or
there you
any
go,
of us.
exactly.
People can make mistakes, they can improve themselves, we ought to give them a shot, because working people aren't stealing.
Right.
Working people are working.
Right.
And if we offer more opportunities for our young people who make mistakes to get back into the game and start to produce and provide for themselves, I think society as a whole will be improved.
Well, you know what? That was a great note to stop on.
Preach.
It's, yes, take us to church. And we'll be back after a word from our sponsors.
After the Holy Ghost.
Welcome home. Back to friends, family, and loved ones. You've done your duty for your country. Now, it's time to do your duty for yourself. Chart a new course and achieve honor for you and your family. Start with a top-notch education that will take you to new terrains. Soldier on at Florida A&M University.
Welcome back, Cup Lovers, and if you're just tuning in, we've been discussing culture, work with respect to the generational gap, and now. So obviously there's a marked difference between the generations, right? What does that say about our value system of today, and is there a difference between the values of our past and present generation, past generation versus the present generation, and is that a reflection of a decline or an increase of our connection with God? I know that's a loaded question, but is that a reflection of of a decline or increase of our relationship with God?
Will it?
Wow. What was you saying about that call coming in? But I believe nowadays having that true authentic relationship with God has somehow been put on a back burner.
Right.
Nowadays you have people that are more concerned with self-gratification. Everybody's thinking me, versus what God's people are supposed to be thinking. How can I build a better community?
Right, community.
Better family.
Right.
Better goodwill for the entire network. So
Right.
I think that's basically where we're heading now instead of where we should be.
Right. I agree.
So is it? I know in this generation we do hear about a lot of selfishness and self-gratification. But is selfishness really wrong when you really think about it? Because what God wants us to do is look within ourselves. And He wants us to search ourselves and be healed and get us together first before we're able to help the community, because a hurting person cannot help a hurting person. So is being a little selfish, just a little bit, a bad thing?
Well, I mean, I think it goes a lot of ways.
Okay.
I did hear a stat just the other day that, with regard to churches, that of all the tithes, offerings, collections that are collected into churches, all former religions, something like 2% is then turned around into mission work, which means, if true, 98% of what comes into the doors of our faith organizations are into overhead, are into salaries, are into building new institutions, new churches, repairing old, so on and so forth. And let's be optimistic. If it were 10%, that is a dismal amount going into the missions. And when you think about one of the criticisms I hear around formal religion and worshiping in formal places, certainly amongst this generation, is they don't see the turnaround and the give back to the community. Not enough, and not in the way that they'd like to see it. And so,
not how it used to be.
well, I mean, used to. I don't know.
I remember when I was a kid, I remember always being with my mom doing stuff in the community. She even brought a homeless guy to our house one time. And that, I mean, not to say that that's a bad thing, but I mean, that's how much of much the giver, and that's how that was the community that I was raised in, the church. We were always doing stuff in the community.
Well, in the neighborhood I grew up in, the guy, you called him a baser, would take our wash powders and detergent off the back porch, come around to the front, try and sell it to us. Which, is its own, probably more to do with my neighborhood.
Community,
than a set of values. But, I only throw that out there to say, a lot of times, and I think this turns millennials and others off, is when we make the generational comparisons. It frankly discounts and dismisses history a little bit. There are a lot of generations. You think about, the 60s and what was happening in this country. There were a lot of the older generation. I thought there was a moral decay of America. You had kids freely expressing themselves. That, I mean,
baby boomers.
Art, a little bit of drugs. I mean, it was, and I'm not condoning any of it, but
a little bit.
But it was a reflection of its time. And today, we've got other demons that we have to deal with that are a reflection of our time, better or worse, or just an evolution on how different generations interact these issues and intersect them. I think probably the latter more than the former. Either way, we are absolutely not doing the best we can by way of setting a good example, by having the community take greater responsibility for the people that it produces. Your parents talk about it, we say it. We were spanked on the way home. You were disciplined before you got to your own house. Everybody was in everybody's business, good, bad, or in between. And now it's sort of like I keep to myself. See something, I don't say anything. Absolutely, I'm gonna sue you. I'll call the police.
Exactly.
And so, the litigious nature of our society has really led to, I think, a lot of people deciding that they will retrench and retract into themselves rather than open up and go out into the community in the way that I think societies once did.
So we just have to get back to God's love overall, because it's unconditional, and we can't have seasonal compassion. When things go wrong in our neighborhoods, we group together on that cause.
That's the trend of today.
Yeah, that's the trend of today. We see that in so many different aspects, that when something goes wrong throughout nationally or locally or even in the government, we band together on that one particular cause. But then once that cause has been resolved, then we're back to our everyday. So it's like everything is so like you were saying, it's mine and mine only, and no more. This is my family. I only care about my family, and hey, how you doing? But I gotta go home to my family. And I don't know if that has anything to do with, just a lot of the crime rate, or just a lot of the, just society, just like we say, reality TV is the fittest win, like the biggest loser, right?
Yeah, sure.
Survivor.
Survivor the fittest.
Survivor the fittest.
One thing, I mean, just thinking generationally, there was a point in time in this country, certainly when you deal just with the African American community, where we were much more interdependent on each other. In the neighborhood I grew up in, the teacher was down the street, the pastor was up the street. My mama, who did dry cleaning during the summer and school bus driving in the regular year, lived right next to, what we would consider the highest of our society.
Mm-hmm.
And now, folks who have moved on up and out.
Right.
And the only time there is a reconnection to the community, the hood, the neighborhood, is on Sundays when folks drive into church and then when they drive back out.
Right.
And I think that has absolutely had a decaying impact on community and on the example that our children need around what the future could look like.
Right.
The fact that I could be a future lawyer, doctor, preacher, teacher, dry cleaner, if I wanted to be, that these were standard bearers in society and we weren't divided by economic, economic lines within the African American community. There was a lot of interdependency.
This has been a great show.
Yeah, indeed.
Thank you so much, Andrew, for being with us. We really appreciate you. You've been wonderful. We wish we could.
Oh, we
extend
want
this.
more. We want more.
Right. Well, we can't.
I know.
We
We
have
just saying.
30 minutes. But
Y'all were doing a rendition of that commercial. The kid goes, "We just want more. We just want more."
yeah, we do.
Maybe I'm the only one that watches that station.
Don't mention it on here. Though. What's my lines? Okay, so what, would you like them to follow you on Twitter or Facebook?
Oh, I do have a Twitter.
Whoa!
Can I talk there about the Twitter? All right.
Look into the camera.
This applause is making me feel very old. The fact that I have a Twitter, but I do _Gillum, Gillum, not IAM, not IUM, just GILLUM, Gillum, Grillum, Gillum.
All right.
And would love for you to follow me there. I am extremely excited about the next 4 years. I'm excited to be serving as our city's mayor.
Awesome.
I think the best is still yet to come for Tallahassee,
Awesome.
and I look forward to coming back and being with you all sometime.
Follow us on Facebook. Well, follow us on Twitter and like our Facebook page.
What's your handle?
Our WIYCUP. No, WIC. I'm sorry.
Now what's your handle?
WIYC.
There it is.
There it is, right. And our Facebook is What's in Your Cup TV, and you can visit our website at www.what'sinyourcuptv.com and subscribe for more updates. Until next time, thank you, cup lovers, and this has been
What's in your cup?